Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak and many thanks for your company. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. In this themed company of Mark Ouko, the Youth Coordinator, the National Students' Council of Kenya. Remi Osoti is the President, Multimedia University. Sophie Mugure Njehia is Youth Advocate, a member of the Revolutionary Gen Z Movement. RGM Kamau Ambio is the Chairperson, National Youth Caucus, and Joshua Okayo is the leader of the RGM movement in the country. Many thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I was on before we went on a break, Sophie.
Yes, I would like to respond to Remi first of all. He stated that education sector has gotten an additional amount of money. I'd like to let him know that as a student leader, he needs to be aware that the current budget under the saga has had a reduction and they will not have 83 billion to allocate to 8 universities.
Which is that sector?
Education sector.
What is the allocation?
Under the higher education, they have gotten a reduction of 3%, and that will not, they will not have enough allocation for the pending bills for 8 universities that are currently struggling in Kenya. The 8 universities need a total of 83 billion to clear the pending bills and to move business of the university forward. We've seen universities like TUK, more universities struggle so much. But instead of him as a student leader agitating for better services in the education sector, he is among those who are busy courting the government and being in the company of government officials instead of fighting for the needs of his students in MMU and working in comradeship with other students from other universities like TUK and Moi University. They are busy sitting here to tell us that we should applaud the government for reducing money to the education sector in the name of adding a few millions to another sector. So for me, that one is completely hypocritical. I'd like to answer Mark.
But there's an increment of sure. From earlier allocation last year to the current 702 billion, is it?
Do you know what this budget has done, Ayub?
Yeah.
Imetoa hapa, ikaweka hapa. So hiyo yenye unasema ime-increase one department na imetoa another department.
Okay. It was just a correction of the increment in the education sector.
For sure. But they have had a reduction in the entire education sector of 900 million. There's reduction in primary education. There's reduction in secondary. There's reduction in JSS. In fact, in the education sector, the only people who've gotten an increase is TSC. TSC, the budget that was read by Mbadi Juzi Upper Thursday. Check your figures. I'm talking facts.
The employer has pointed out, but don't you then appreciate the increment generally overall for the education sector?
No, there is no overall increment in the education sector. In fact,
TSC gets
if
a
you do a median,
budget, yeah.
If you do a median on the increase and the reduction, it is a total of a reduction.
And TSC gets a portion of that money.
It's only the TSC that has gotten an increment.
It's part of the larger budget, which is
Tell me why
300
the
billion
youth
Kenya
training
shillings.
has gotten a reduction of 19%.
You're talking about?
I'm talking about the education sector.
Okay.
The allocation for youth training alone has gotten a reduction of 19%.
Okay. In your view, then, what then needs to happen?
There needs to be a check on what is our priority in this government. There is an increase of a couple of million of shillings to the executive office that only houses 2 individuals. But there is a reduction in the health sector, in the agricultural sector, in the education sector. We seriously need to review our priorities as a nation.
Okay.
Let me answer Mark, please.
Yes, please.
Mark asked why we were on the streets on that Monday. Ayub, let me tell you, had we not gone to the streets, had we not agitated to see Albert's body at City Mortuary, today, the narrative that the police had sold us of Albert hitting his head on the wall would have floated. Had we not protested at City Mortuary, Ayub, had we not seen the bruises on Albert's body, today Albert would have been a statistic. When he tells us that we are hired, that we are paid, I wish someone was paying us to be active citizens in this nation, then things would have changed a long time ago. But we're on the street because today it's Albert, tomorrow it's me. God forbid. So you don't know when next it's your turn, and that's why we're out on the street.
Okay. Yes, Council. I'll come to Remy. Yes, Council.
Just to answer Mark Ayub, he said that it's perceived Gen Zs that are going to the streets. And I'm going to tell him that it is not perceived Gen Zs. It is us who go to the streets. And we see what happens in the streets. And our picketing does not lack direction. They're issue-based. As my fellow panelists here said, had we not gone to the streets on Monday, things would not have gone the way they went. Had we not gone to the streets during the finance bill demonstrations, things would have, the bill would have passed, and we wouldn't be here. We would be facing punitive taxes. So when he says that they lack direction, they're based on euphoria, they are not. They're not. Kenyans are angry, and Kenyans are not here to criticize the government. We're here to tell the government, as much as you're doing this, this is where you're falling short. We're here to work together. So they should not take us as enemies. They should not bring goons on the street to disrupt our constitutional rights. And lastly, when he says that we cannot have good leaders, that people will always be against the office of the IG, people will always criticize whoever, that is not true. You cannot preempt that we can never have good leaders. This is like the Israeli-Iran war, where you feel like sometimes in the future we will be bombed. No, you need to have hope that indeed Kenyans have good leaders. Even him himself, if he decides to run for political office, he can be a good leader. So let us not give up hope. That is the only string that is the only thing we're stringing on, that we can have good leaders who can actually implement policies and actually bring up strong institutions.
Okay.
Yes.
We are now joined by Joshua Okayo, formerly the president of the Kenya School of Law, and now the founder and leader of the Revolutionary Gen Z Movement, RGM. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Lovely having you.
It's lovely to be here. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm late because I woke up to a swollen knee. I have never recovered from Thursday last week because I went to the street to demand for justice and to call for order, but we did not get it. But at least I've heard Sophie say it, that we were able to view Albert's body because of the agitation that we put at the city mortuary. So I'm happy to be here. I'll be contributing. Yeah.
And we are 5 days to June 25th last year. You are part of the people who are victimized, abducted, and of course your story covered. How significant is this as the momentum builds up to that historic day?
First, I want to start from somewhere. I heard Mark say it, that we have just a very small percentage of protesters are organic. Number one, that's a lie. Because how do you know who is organic and who is not organic? Exactly. If you are not part of that team, if you're not part of people protesting, how do you know? Because you just came to town to view or to watch, to do your study. What study do you do when you're not part of that team that is protesting? That's number one. Number two, these are reformists. People like Remy and Mark are reformists. Because they think protests should be, people should sit somewhere and discuss in boardrooms. They're used to boardroom politics, where people sit somewhere and discuss protests and how it should be done and how we should walk. When people are agitated, you don't even need time to sit and plan. You walk out and go and show your agitation. So the thing is, the Monday, it started on Monday. I think the Monday was 11th. So from 11th, it's a build-up to what is to come on 25th. So if you tell me that because on Monday, just a few people were the real protesters or organic protesters, then it means you do not know what protests are. So protests start from somewhere. And I'm happy that it started from Monday when we went to demand for justice for Albert Ojwang, and we went and occupied Central Police Station. So from that time, 11th to 25th is about 2 weeks. That's good time enough to be able to build momentum that will bring about 1 million or more people to the streets on 25th. So the numbers from the beginning is neither here nor there. Last year, we only had 3 days to protest, and on the third day of protest, we had the numbers that we had. And this year, people are even more agitated, and we are looking towards having more people than we had last year, probably 5 times we had last year, so that then we can occupy every place that we need to occupy in this country. So in terms of mobilization, Ayub, it's not something that you can quantify and say that these are the real people who have been mobilized and these ones have not been mobilized. At the same time, we have not had reparation from last year. We have not had compensation for the people that we were fighting for last year. We have not, some of these things I've had people say that have been fulfilled, have not been fulfilled. And if you're saying that we must always have people questioning the authority, then you're wrong. If an authority is doing the right thing, why should we question an authority if the authority is doing the right thing? So if you see a majority of Kenyans crying and saying that, doing all the other hashtags, but the one that is more relevant is Ruto must go even as we speak. If you see a majority of Kenyans saying Ruto must go, it means these people, they are dissatisfied with the service that the president has given and the whole institution of executive has given, okay, and that they want a change of system. And a change of system means that everyone within that system pipe must go.
Okay, and appreciated. And the president has at least the period until August 2027 to serve, unless impeached by Parliament. So what's the net consequence of he must go?
You see, and let me first correct, we don't have to wait until 2027 for president to go home or until the MPs impeach the president. All sovereign power belongs to the people, and the people can exercise that power directly. So it means we have the opportunity, and this is the opportune moment. This is the opportune moment.
So how does that exercise happen directly? Exercise
happen directly by us marching to State House and saying that the president stand impeached by the people.
Okay, and here is the thing then. Under Article 1, the people have vested that power in Parliament to representation by their MPs. And unless impeached, resigned, or of course, God forbid, the other unfortunate
dies. Yes.
No. Let's not.
That's another.
Okay, let's not go there. But the point is, I'm making. What is the net consequence of the marshalling to State House then? Isn't it the forceful removal of a democratically elected leader from office unconstitutionally?
It is not a forceful removal of a democratically elected leader. When people thought that he was the best at the time, they elected him. But people have changed their minds, and people are allowed to change their minds. The people of Kenya have changed their minds, and they have said that we are dissatisfied with the president, and we want him out, not tomorrow, not in 2027, but now.
So what then happens in August next year? The next election? The next election?
No, the moment the president is ousted, then we have what is it called? A transition council. We have a transition, team that will hold the office until 2027. And we will have our elections in 2027. It's not like we are going to deviate away from the constitutional provisions. We shall not.
Okay. Yes, Remy, coming to you.
Thank you so much, Ayub. You see, sometimes I love how Gen Z sometimes try to reason, which is okay. Reasoning is okay. But sometimes the aspect that we bring with the reasoning, the consequence that comes with our reasoning, we also have a burden when it comes to some aspects of reasoning. Let me ask you one thing. I've stated not once or twice that whenever injustice is mounted on an institution within the government, we've seen not once or twice, even the government institutions themselves condemn. But then, my surprise or my worry is, we have a very bad narrative in this nation where we want to reject everything, This time now, I'm yet to understand, and if maybe I might be wrong, I'll also be correct. I still stand guided and corrected. When we're going for the 25th June last year, and I was there, by the way, okay, I protested since day one to day last. It was objective. I'm still struggling to understand, what are we going to do on 25th? One, are we going to reject this new finance bill, which I've not had much agitation on? Number two, are we going to stand with the family of example Albert? Number 3, are we going to the streets to demand for justice? Okayo here is busy saying that we are mobilizing so that by that date we are able to take 1 million people to State House. Even a kid that is born will not be able to understand why. You see, that's what Ouko was saying, that we are in a situation where we lack objective. We don't know where we are heading for as Gen Zs. And we have a very bad syndrome where we start by saying we want to reject everything that is coming. Just hold on, my brother.
You know,
you see, sometimes
hold on and listen to a lot of...
Ayub, there are things we need to...
No. Just wait.
It's deluding, you see, to nothing.
I'm not
someone is you are what you spend most of your time with. Okayo just said here that my brother, he is a reformist politician.
Yes.
He's used to boardroom politics in campus. I'll give you an example. Myself in campus, I wanted to become a student leader. I wanted to be the president. I was told by the Senate, if you love your education, what brought you to campus? Education. If you love your education, step down. And I stepped down because I wouldn't have gone home. Now, these, my brothers here, they used to be guided and be told by what they are going to do. They think that here in Kenya, in politics, kwa ground mambo ni kuambiwa. My friend,
when you're done,
when you're saying that we are coming here.
Now when you're done, now listen to me, what I was saying.
I'm not
That's the problem with the Gen Zs,
I'm not yet done.
That's the problem with the Gen Zs.
Okay, Remy,
of the day.
We cannot listen to someone.
Yes.
Just hang on, Kamau. Let's have some order and be civil.
Sure.
Do you have a problem with people protesting?
I don't.
Yes.
My problem is only simple, Ayub, in this entire process. What is the objective of the strike?
I mean, what problem do you have if they come on the streets?
Let them come on the streets, but then what is the objective? What is the objective of coming to that street on 25th? Is it that, you see, when Okayo sits here,
when been compensated?
He wants to go to State House.
Can we ask you,
just hold on.
Have they been compensated?
The others are busy shouting and throwing tantrums and saying that on 25th we are going to the streets to demand for justice. Others are going to the streets to say that we are going to as an anniversary. So at the end of the day, Ayub, what is this that we are the objective of the entire thing? And the entire thing is when we want to organize ourselves into something that we call a revolution. A revolution comes either way whenever people are organized and the objective is to achieve a particular goal. But then the problem that we're having with this generation is we want to put our hands in everything. We go to this state, we say this is bad, we bring it. We go to this, we say this is bad, and we bring it. But then if we organize ourselves so that we say the only way that we can come out and say that as Gen Z that maybe we want good governance is, for example, I would want to see Mark Okayo come to the and say, now I want to mobilize youths to go and register as voters. Those are the things that we need to see. Those are the better ways of revolution.
You made your point.
Yes.
You disagree with them on the objectives. But you have no problem. It's their democratic right. Them coming on the streets speaking.
Yes, but I have a problem with Okayo going to the State House to do what?
Okay. Yes, Mark. Let's have Mark again.
Yes, you know, Ayub, I didn't know we'll have a very huge emotional battalion today.
Emotional?
That is also okay. You know, in politics, there are two kinds of people who are correct. There are people who can be factually correct, and there are people who can also be popularly correct. I thought Joshua, being a lawyer, I think being president of the Kenya School of Law, he knows that even if in the process the president is ejected and he has already fundamentally says he respects the constitution, the same constitution says that in the occurrence of that the president leaves, the deputy president will take over. There's nothing such as a transitional council. Now what you're realizing is that there are people who argue and make a lot of noise, not with an objective to seek truth, but with the objective to keep in control. So once you already decipher that fact, you leave it at that. Now I'll say this. There are things that we all fundamentally do agree with, okay? Killing a person, whether it's from the police, we all fundamentally and morally do agree that that is wrong. Nobody should ever go through such a thing, yeah? You know what happened to Albert, what happened to Boniface. I think that is morally wrong, that is fundamentally wrong, and I think any sane person, even in this room or in this country, would agree to that. Now, the thing with the Gen Zs, and I've often told them this, in politics, you can never go against the tide, whether you go even to the most top democratic spaces like the USA. And what the Gen Z is surviving on is so much on decentralized structures. You know, we are partyless, we are motionless, we are objectiveless, we are structuraless, and in politics does not work. In politics, you must have centralized structures. Whatever they are gunning up is not activism. This is politics by itself. So if they are to make any monumental change, you must be structured. So you see, for example, and this is what I actually said, a number of times when the Gen Zs are going to the streets, it is the passive goals that are being achieved. What do I mean by passive goals? The passive goal is like this. Somebody like Murkomen today cannot come and tell people on TV that I put on a watch of 1 million because he knows he'll be backlashed, okay?
He did so before the reshuffle.
Yes. But I say before the Gen Z movement coming into place. So that is a passive goal. Somebody already knows that if I do that, I will face a backlash. But the active goal, it should be that we should be fighting corruption. That is now an active goal. But many a times the active goal is not being pursued. And I told them, even if you are, I just told them, the forest is the same. The monkeys are the ones that can change. The de facto leader of opposition today would arguably be Rigathi Gachagua. Rigathi Gachagua was the same person who was in appreciation of what the police were doing in this country a year ago, where he was the deputy president. Today, he's on the other side of the game. We have a country for ourselves. This country, we are not in extraordinary times, actually. I want to say this. Sometimes when you go to your phone, you might feel like the country is burning. No, we just have serious issues to handle, and I think they can be best handled if you look at things more objectively and not so emotionally. Okay,
point made. Yes, Council. I'll come to Kamau.
Ayub, you know, the whole reason why the Gen Zs are on the streets and keep going to the streets is because the issues that they have raised are not being addressed, other than the finance bill, as you said, and, you know, KRA being told, you know, you cannot access this and that data. And the issues of corruption, the issues of unemployment, there's the issues of weak institutions. There are still things that are still burning. And I would like to tell Mark that we're not on the streets because we want to fight the government. We're on the streets to address issues that the government keeps sweeping under the rug. And if they don't address it, we will not stop coming to the streets. Now, I'm looking at the ideologies of previous African founders. Let's talk about Nelson Mandela. Let's talk about Thomas Sankara. Let's talk about, you know, the first Congo Zaire president. My issue is, if we don't have servant leadership, you know, the one-term issue should not be a thing that we are discussing, because one term is enough. Nelson Mandela held office for one term and he stepped down because he was there to serve. He was not there to act, you know, for political mileage or to gain. But you see, let's talk about Sankara. He cut government spending, even his own salary. He was living a very simple life. But what we are seeing right now is the fact that leaders are becoming very greedy. They do not care about who they are serving. When we go to the streets, they feel like we are a thorn on their skin. But essentially, we are here to tell them, just do this. If you can just cut corruption, if you can just give youth employment, if you can just, you know, the president was on the news yesterday and he was saying the issue of unemployment, that, you know, we need to come up with policies. When he was in office before, the honorable president, he was in office before, so he knows that the youth are unemployed. It's been 2.5 years. It is the same issue of unemployment that he is raising. So what is the government doing? We're not here to fight them. We're here to tell them, this is where you're falling short. Can you pull up your socks? That is all.
Okay, and Kamau, you had fundamentally disagreed with what the student leader said here. Sorry, I had to cut you short at the time. Yes, please proceed.
Yes. I want to categorically say, these young people, we are not idle to go to the streets. We are going to the streets because we are awake. We are awake. And we can see what is happening, and therefore we cannot keep quiet. And I want to tell you, when the future is stolen, protest will become a purpose and will become our day-to-day thing. My friend, when the institutions fail, streets will become classrooms. That is where we are going to learn our things. And what am I saying? Because when we are going to the streets, because these institutions are failing, education. Do you know why we have over 1.8 million defaulters from HELB? That is from the Kenya Statistics Department. As of 2024, 1.8 million Kenyans have defaulted from help. That is over 16 billion. Do you know why is that? Because these institutions are not working. They are not jobs. These people are learned. They have gone to each and every angle of education. But when you come outside here, you've been promised for jobs. You've been promised for everything. But what is happening outside here? We have so many people who are supposed to have retired. They're still in office. Impunity. We're having rogue police officers like the one you saw. That should not be a police officer. Even I was seeing some of his TikTok videos smoking weed. Saying, you know, but because we have been used from our categories of recruiting these people, they are rogue. It's corruption everywhere. Education system has failed. Health has failed. Infrastructure development in this country is on the downfall, my friend. And then you're coming to tell us here and to lecture us here as if you are our parents, that we don't have an objective. My friend, we don't have an objective when there are 63 people. Actually, there are 63 last year. 2023, there's another, 76. To date, they have never been compensated. They have never been, though their cases are still pending in court. You get, Ayub? That is why we have to be, and we have to as we quest for our future. This is our future. And when someone is poking your future, Ayub, if someone comes to play with your job here, you are going to do everything, anything in your power to ensure that your path is clear. Yes. So it's not about emotions. It's not about what. It's about the truth, what you know. And I agree. I might not agree with everything he said, but I agree with one thing. We must have structures. We must have a home. We must have something, because this politics, as he says, and you have to fight this war politically.
Yeah, before we go to Sophie and Okayo, we'll get the feedback, what you have sent us, also incorporating young people who are watching this broadcast from home, and of course you, the viewer, and we thank you for that. We'll go through this and then respond to if there are any matters that have been raised. The first one is coming from Lekishon Laban says, young voices must understand this. The police aren't here for your safety. They are here to protect a fearful regime. Don't be fooled by politicians' sweet talk. June 25th is your day. Honor the fallen, demand justice, demand accountability. MC_Rumors says, the Gen Z protests last year reshaped Kenya's political landscape. Young people are rising united across tribe, social class and education background to stand against an oppressive regime. They are tired of unemployment, bad governance, impunity and rampant corruption. This is a generation that refuses to be silent. Tirop Lindsay says, Gen Z has emerged as the conscience of the nation, boldly holding up a mirror to the government. Their fearless activism has exposed deep cracks in Kenya's democracy, but the pressing question remains, do they have the strategy and unity needed to finally send the old guard home? You respond to that, Okayo. Frank Orinde says, Gen Z isn't just searching for identity, they are searching for impact. They are tired of broken systems, fake promises and recycled failures. To spark real change, you must go beyond protest, organize, disrupt strategically, occupy decision-making spaces, and build what doesn't yet exist. That is true. Like Kishon again says, all we have left is the fire for justice. Some youth lit the flame that flame on June 25th, 2024, only to later serve the very system who we rose against. Don't trade the future for fear or fame. Don't betray the cause. The old have fallen back. Now it's the youth who must carry it forward. Okello Mwalimu says, now that the Maandamano route has become a battlefield marked with police brutality, tears and blood, the youth must innovate new ways to air their grievances like vigils, lawsuits, initiating recall process of inept MPs, and most importantly, dissociate from opportunistic politicians who hijack the cause for personal reason or gain. Real change demands strategy, not just struggle. Esawe says, Gen Z has brought a renewed sense of identity and direction in the fight against impunity and bad governance. Their voices constantly remind the government of its unfulfilled promises. We all must join hands to build a better future. If you truly love Gen Z, empower them, don't kill them. I'll come to you on this strategy, Joshua. Yes, Sophie, you had a point you were taking.
I wanted to say, in the matter of structure and in the matter of what we are doing on the back end to organize and to take political power. We as the, first of all, let me say that Gen Z is not really about age. As we can see, we have young people here who are young, but they're still backward in their thinking. Gen Z is a mindset of change, of wanting a better Kenya. So you can be 60 years old, but you're a Gen Z. Okay. For as long as your mind is progressive and wants a better and a working Kenya. So for us who are seated here, personally, I'm a political aspirant. I'm vying for a seat in the next election. So we, the young people, are awake to the fact that in us, we are educated enough and we have what it takes to occupy these positions of power. And that is why, for instance, I am a member of a movement that is known as the Revolutionary Gen Z Movement. Right now, the registrar of parties is not registering parties. They're not taking parties that we, the young people, can register. So we have a challenge in terms of what we are doing structurally. But on the ground, we are organizing. We are going to the ground to talk to people, to do civic education, to do political engagements, because we have realized that we cannot do this fight without the people, and we need to know what the people want. The current government is busy stating problems, yet they are the ones who have been mandated with the duty to provide solutions to these problems. You cannot stand in front of us, you're the president, and you're talking about youth unemployment. Yet we have given you the mandate to offer solutions. That's why we are paying you. So I don't see why we are being told that we are planless. In fact, I'd be very shocked, Ayub, when we take them home in 2027, if not sooner, like Joshua is saying.
Yes, Mr. President. There was something that was brought up in terms of the structures and the impact that ought to happen and should happen.
Yeah, thank you. But before I get to structures, there are certain things that need to be addressed. I heard Remy say that last year he was in all the protests until 25th June, but he changed his mind along the way. You know why? These two gentlemen are victims of a failed system. Remy went and took a photo with the president. And that day he was wearing a sky blue suit. all his teeth were out. He felt like he's in heaven. He's never met such a person. And that day they were given 25,000 Kenya shillings each. They are bribed by 25,000 Kenya shillings. The future of Kenya is being bribed by 25,000 Kenya shillings. Out. And afterwards, they have had Charlene Ruto visiting them, you know, occasionally and ensuring that they keep touch. That is what is happening in universities. So if you hear them come here, they don't speak what they believe. They speak what the masters want them to speak. Mark is in a payroll. If he comes here, he is coming to represent the interest of the state. Whether or not he believes in what he's saying, he's in a payroll. And the time that Citizen TV will stop giving him airtime, the government will even be willing to bribe you, Ayub, to give him airtime. So he's speaking some other people's language. Any young person who is distancing themselves from the revolutionary Gen Z movement right now and saying that, you know, the problem with Gen Z is this and that, that young person is not genuine. They are not genuine to themselves. They don't believe in what they are saying. They are being, they have their masters whom they are speaking for. But now coming to strategy. Ayub, the problem is people think this is a sprint. This is not a sprint. The uprising started last year. We only have 1 year. And people expect us to have had structures, you know, and have done all that thing. It doesn't come easy. Movement building is something that takes some time. Movement building is not something that will happen overnight or in 1 month or 2 months. We were very lucky that we were able to achieve so much just after 3 protests. But after June 25th, 2024, we have had a lot to learn. Look at the 90s when we had all these, Mwa Kenya and the other movements. There were quite a number of movements, you know, that were agitating for second liberation. But they did not come together just once. They had some time. So we are in that stage where we have quite a number of people. We have movements who've been in existence before. We have, you know, movements like KLM and all those movements that have been in existence before. They have played their parts. But now we are trying to bring all these sectors together, all these movements together, all these groups of people together. It is not easy. But I can tell you, we have started building structures. That is why you can see some of us now, there's someone handling, you know, mobilization, there's someone handling relations, there's someone handling all that. I can tell you we have people from different groups and different movements that are already in existence that are trying to coordinate to ensure that this revolutionary movement that we have at the moment does not fizzle out before we realize the change that we actually need. So it might take some time. Okay. Should we not, in the unfortunate event that we don't get to where we want to get on June 25th, that is a very unfortunate event, then you will still see plans even moving forward. So we are not a reactionary group of people that we are only going to react to 25th June or what happens. We are actually in the plan to ensure that we have basic structures that will allow us to even form a working system should we occupy those spaces.
Okay.
Just to add on that.
Yes, before I go to Mark here.
Yes. We are actually organizing sustainably.
Yeah.
We are trying to register political parties. We are doing voter education. We're doing civic education. Personally, on a personal level, I have done a huge legal aid event clinic at Kibra, which aimed at, reaching out to the masses, those who have problems with ID cards. You cannot register as a voter without an ID card. There are very many youths who have issues with ID cards. The name in the birth certificate and the name in the ID do not match. So we did free affidavits on that day. We partnered with an organization called Nubian Rights Forum, which helped with regard to civic education and, registration on the system. So essentially, we are building momentum, we are building partnerships, and at the end of the day, come 2027, they will feel our presence.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, Mark. I'll come to you, Rami.
Yes, now, Ayub, there are three things. Now, I first of all love the tone now at which now this argument has come. It was so hype at the moment. Now, let's not so engage on the rhetoric around. Number one, about youthful engagement, I think I do agree with what everyone is saying, that there has been lack of a continuous involvement with the young people. On Tuesday, I was at State House and I was with the president, especially and also with some leaders, and I whispered to them, you cannot be looking for these people only when you're in crisis. And I think that's one of the mistakes that this government is doing, that whenever there is a June 25th moment is when now we are too concerned about the young people, but we are not actively pursuing them. Like, I mean, there's some programs that has been built there to try and, solve the youth employment, like the housing program, up to 232 young people have been employed, but that is not an entirely solution. So if there's
employed which year?
200 in the current 105,000 housing units that have been built during the housing programs. The number of youths that have been employed in this program across the country, it's 244,232.
The economic survey report says that's not the case.
It is. Of course, there are people who are being... Kindly allow me. People are being employed from different sectors. So if when we were doing the collective emergement,
because the president on Labor Day mentioned 250,000.
It's 244. I think he was giving a.
And the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics economic survey report disputed that.
Because I was checking from the statistics that were being given by PS Hinga around the exact numbers that were given. So I think it's just, 244, 250. It's legitimately okay.
You mentioned the sanity of the debate.
Yes.
Of course, it has to be factual.
Yes.
So the point was then, we cannot take Charles Hinga's word as the gospel truth when the economic survey report is there, and which informs government decisions on how the government plans and where it needs to invest more. Just on a factual note, please proceed.
Ayub, semantics, but that's also okay. Now,
that is the report, not mine.
Semantics from 244 and 250.
Yes.
Now, secondly, yes, I said so. I told them you cannot be looking for young people only when you're coming to a state of crisis. That's wrong. It doesn't work out that way. So, secondly, one problem that this government has also not been able to learn, especially dealing with young people, when you know that somebody doesn't want you, but you'll need them because of their numbers. There's something called the act of conflicting a person. And this is something that even the president is doing with the Nyanza people, that although these people do not say, even if they do not like you, generally, maybe they do not like you, you do a lot of things to them so that in the decision, in the moment they will try to battle out, they have a lot of things that you have done to them. That's something called the art of conflicting. If the government had been continuously engaging the young people, then there wouldn't be, it will be even by the time somebody wants to go to the streets and be looking, you know, the government has done for us 1, 2, 3. Now, in terms of 2027 is very far. A day in politics is very long. The deputy president of Kenya last year by this time was Rigathi Gachagua. Today he's the chief opposition leader. So 2027 is very far. But this is what I would say. I do agree that William Ruto is not so popular. In fact, his approval rating by today is 12%. But I've always opined, and I would say this continuously, it's like a gospel. William Samoei Ruto will win the election in 2027. Even if the election was to be done today, he will win it. Why? Because of the mere fact that a disorganized majority can never win against an organized minority. William Ruto is already merging his numbers. He knows where his numbers is. When you look at this other side, when you ask them, what is the alternative to William Samoei Ruto? They'll say, even if it is voting for a frog against William Ruto, we'll vote for that frog. That is the disorganization. The moment you vote for that frog, William Ruto is coming back to power. And finally, the last thing that I would say, most people actually will still vote for William Samoei Ruto for this mere fact, or not actually vote for this fact.
People will?
I'm saying a majority of people, even the ones who do not love William Ruto, will either vote for him or not vote for this mere fact. Kenyans suffer from something called inertia thinking, okay? And inertia thinking, and I've often said this, is that you have gate A, okay? This is where maybe Matiang'i is, where it's seemingly like a snake, okay? Then there's gate B, where there's a crocodile. So you're supposed to be exiting either through gate A or gate B. But you see, there's a snake. This side, there's a crocodile. I don't like where I am, but it is rather I stay here. So inertia thinking is a state where, although you are projected with much better, beautiful prospects, you'd rather remain where you are. It's like you are given an option. Will you go to USA or Tanzania or stay in Kenya where you don't like? You look at the optics, then you said, let me rather stay where I am.
Okay.
Ayub, could I weigh in very brief?
Joshua said you're on some payroll. Are you?
I don't know if he's paying me.
Ayub, just very briefly, I want to weigh in on
just wait.
Come on, Joshua.
And Ayub, I also beg to be heard in silence. Okay, I heard you in silence, right? Now, Ayub,
Speaker protects you, so.
I want. Thank you so much for the protection. I want to first dispute whatever that my brother Okayo was saying. Okayo, you are a law student.
No, I'm a lawyer.
You are a lawyer,
yes.
And you know very well that State House is a public office. So any moment you feel like should be getting there, believe there's no harm in you if you make any petition to the State.
Should he be granted access?
If he goes, let him use the right channels to go there instead of going with 1 billion.
Right channels, but it's a public office.
Number two, my brother, hold on your horses. Number two, my brother Okayo, there are things that we should envision as we come up with everything. I want to say, Ayub, Rome was not built in a day. These things that we raised, these things there are a number of issues. And whenever we have systematic address of them, these are issues, unemployment, corruption. They are issues that have been there since we had our independence. But either way, in as much as they've been there, we don't praise that they should continue being there. The only thing we need to do is to also at least give, after raising them, we also need to come. My worry was only coming up with alternative solutions. Number two, I want to say that protests are constitutional. Either way, but my good friend Pio Lumumba says that when you stay for too long, you spoil it. I think the voice has been had. It's outside there. The reforms that we need. The only thing we need to come up with, how are we going to implement them? Okay. How are we going to come up and say that this is now the direction that you want to go? And then lastly, to everything that will happen between now until 2027. The only thing that these people don't know is that we still believe that we still have like 10 years to 2027. If you ask them today, Ayub, in this event, just a simple, in this panel today, like, if people were to go to elections tomorrow now, whom will you vote for? You see, I'm very sure I'm giving another view. Her opinion versus how opinion will differ. We still have the old political systems. Okay. Those are the people who are still addressing us. There are people who are still taking, there are people who are still hacking the protest. And let me tell you, the people who have changed the Gen Z's protest into a political fora are people who want to gain political fame, who want to take this country unlawfully. And that's what we are not going to agree with you, Okai.
Of course, we have clear pathways as to how we can change power. Sophie, I'll come to you, and Okai, I'll give you the time. Let Kamau respond to this.
Yeah,
yes,
as I wind up,
yes.
And I want to emphasize on your point on with the factuality of numbers. When the president says 250,000 people have been employed, then Mark got information from Hinga, it's 244. Then
257.
Listen, I am coming to you. And then there's Ken BS. Now, I don't want even to delude what Ken BS is said, because it will go crazy. Now, that is a difference of 6,000 people. A difference of 6,000 people, paying them 800 a day, that's 4.8 million. 4.8 million, paying them a month, that's a 124 million. 124 million 800 a month that is not accounted for. That is why we should be sure, which means now the president and Hinga, there is a difference there of 124 million. That is, we don't know where it's going. And that is why we should be factual when we are saying these things. And that is why it is not business as usual. And that is why we are even... it is saddening when you're seeing, and I know Okayo is saying it from a point of reference. I also have a point of reference that my brother here is on payroll. And let me tell you, I saw someone say there, don't trade your future for fear, fame, and I'll add greed or the stomach. You can only be hungry for a few days, but just for specific time. Okay. Yes.
Yes, Sophie.
I would like to wind up by saying, on June 25th, Ayubu shall be on the streets, agitating for what we believe is our right constitutionally. I'd like to address those old politicians who claim to want to be with the Gen Zs, most especially for 25th. I'd like to tell them that they should come out and talk to us on the street, not on television, not on Twitter. On that day, they come out to the streets, the like of Kalonzo, the likes of Rigiji, the likes of Wamalwa, the likes of Maraga, Matiang'i, Omtata. I dare say that if they need our support and if they want us to listen to them, they come to the ground and they help us, most especially agitate for justice for our fallen comrades, rejection of the Finance Bill 2025, and agitating for better governance for this nation, because we have that potential.
Yes, Joshua.
Is this where we say our last words?
Because you had come in a bit late. Yes, please. Have some 3 minutes.
Yeah, Ayub, I have a problem with pegging conversations on individuals, political individuals, and this obsession with who are we planning to elect as president is neither. It's not even a priority. That's why you see people like my brothers find it. They find it so hard to actually have serious conversations without talking about individuals. We are not obsessed about who is becoming the president. True. We are obsessed about what Kenya do we want.
Yes.
And that is why we are so much of system change than who is becoming a president. Whoever will become a president will become a president. Whoever will become a president will be elected by the majority. But what Kenya do we want? What are we envisioning as Kenyans? That is the conversation we would want Remy and Mark to have. Not who can beat President Ruto today or tomorrow. I mean, he can be beaten, but we are not obsessed about who is going to beat them. Otherwise, if we were so obsessed, we would tell them point blank who can beat President Ruto if we had elections today, because we have that individual who can beat him today or tomorrow. So our conversations are beyond President Ruto and who becomes the president. Now, we have a plan, even as the young people, and they keep making reference to me being a lawyer, thinking that I cannot also engage them in factual stuff and plan. Ayub, someone came to our nation and told us that Kenya is only producing about 4 gigawatts of electricity. It's actually 3.9 something gigawatts of electricity. And yet the president keeps talking about industrial revolution. We cannot talk about industrial revolution if we are only producing 4 gigawatts of electricity, and yet there's a country that produces 70 gigawatts of electricity. The government is investing in wrong areas. Right now, KenGen has identified about 19 fields where we can harness geothermal power.
but only 4 have been explored.
Okay.
Why? Because the kind of investment that we're making is not right. We are giving budget to State House, we are giving budget to the Executive Office of the President instead of real issues that matter. Children, young babies in the hospital do not have vaccinations, and yet we are talking about who can become the president, who will be elected the president tomorrow. Students like these ones are now paying double or even more the amount that, look, Ayuba used to pay 26,000 Kenya shillings
a whole year
in university. Right now, the same person undertaking the same course I took in undergraduate is paying about 250,000 Kenya shillings per academic year. That's almost 4 times what I was paying. And you're telling us that things have changed. Things have not changed. So what we are saying is that Kenyans must come out and actually fight for what is rightfully theirs. That is why we are saying on June 25th, 2025, all Kenyans should come out and fight for justice and fight for better, for good governance and fight for better Kenya. Everyone should come out. Let us protest because it is our constitutionally protected right, and let us show the world that people power can actually take over politicians' power. Okay. So everyone will be out. Yeah. No one will be going to work. No one will be traveling. We will go to the streets, protest, march to State House, and by the time we will be getting to Serena, the cricket in Karen will be running for his life as fast as his leg can carry him before he loses his...
Okay, Counsel, given that you're also a lawyer, we have to mind our language, and your opinion here, yours, not that of Royal Media Services. And the point of marching to State House, we have talked about how we can democratically change our governance structure, given that we have the cycles of elections that the Constitution provides, which is a right that every Kenyan must exercise, which is secret, as Sophie has mentioned, to give leaders of their choice the mandate as they...
But this is my opinion.
And your opinion is respected to that.
And this is what majority of Kenyans actually are saying, that we want to take the power by ourselves. Yeah. Well, and it is allowed.
That power was given, and Kenyans said we changed that power as we so wish after every 5 years.
The representatives that they gave the power have failed them. So, and they don't want to wait anymore. So, Kenyans do not want to wait anymore.
So the ballot is the pathway the Constitution has created. Again, to point that out for the healthy debate and the objectivity of the show itself, given that you're also a trained lawyer. Final comments, Mark and Naima.
Yeah, no, Joshua is a very funny character and emotional character. So sometimes when I normally do an analysis of him, I frame myself around that emotional conviction. But lastly, I would say that 2027 is still far. And I think even the tone that the president is trying to set over the past few days, is trying to say, let's not engage so much around 2027. That's why all these stakeholder engagement have been far-fetched away from 2027. And I will tell them again, you'll be surprised amongst even these 4 people who are against government, if you ask them their candidate for 2027, different names. Yeah. And let me tell them, even the person whom they are going to vote for, people vote based on familiarity. These Gen Zs are not going to elect Joshua as their president or even Morara, Kebaso or Sophia. They are going to elect the names that they normally hear. It could be Kalonzo, it could be Gachagua, it could be Matiang'i. But there is no so much difference during the tenure of Rigathi Gachagua as deputy president to, extrajudicial killings when Matiang'i was the CS Interior. What does this mean? And it goes back to what I said. The monkeys might change. The monkey that is holding the top tree, like William Samoei Ruto, but the forest will remain the same. Let us not burn this country. This is our country. Even if we decide to change the monkeys, the forest is still ours.
Yes, Counsel.
On my parting shot, I want to tell Kenyans that we should not lose track of why we started the protest and why we're here. The protests are issue-based, they're policy-driven. We want independent and trusted institutions. We're looking at the police service, we're looking at the courts, we're looking at the IEBC. We need to build trust with Kenyans. Kenyans should borrow a leaf, or the government must borrow a leaf from countries like Singapore and Malaysia. We need to focus on meritocratic civil leadership and do away with tribal-based or, token-based political appointments. We need to organize ourselves as the youth, because that is what is the breaking back of the 2027 elections. And finally, I want to leave the president and our leaders with one quote from Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela said that it is not, you see, what counts in life is not merely the fact that we have lived. It is the difference that we have made in the lives of others that matters. So that is my parting shot. Let us organize and come together on 25th to come up with these political ideologies that we're fighting for.
Thank you. Let's now sample the final feedback here on the broadcast. And here's what you are saying. And many thanks for sending them here on the broadcast. Sheila Sweden says Kenya's Gen Z are not just making noise, they are demanding a seat at the table where their future is being shaped. Call them what they are, rebels with a cause. The government must stop and listen. A new era is knocking. Babu Michael says, it really pains me to hear youth like me saying that Plan 25th protest doesn't have an objective. Here are a few. Gen Z compensations, stop police brutality, youth unemployment, stop corruption. The list is endless. Please. The final, Frank Orinde says the Gen Z movement has energy, voice and numbers, but without structures and a clear identity, it risks being noise in the wind. It's time to define what you stand for. Build systems that last and lead with purpose. Movements with structures, without structures die. Clarity is power. And that was the last one. Yes. Many thanks for your time. Much appreciated. I had your parting shot earlier on. Yes.
Something to leave Kenyans with, that the only person coming to save us is the version of ourselves that is tired with the current situation.
Many thanks for your time. Marco Uko, asante.
Asante sana.
Council Naima, many thanks for your time. Sophie, thank you. Pleasure having you here on the broadcast. Hopefully we'll invite you guys again in the aftermath of June 25th. Joshua, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Mr. Rais, asante sana. Thanks for your time. And Kamau, asante sana.
Thank you.
Long campaign trail awaiting you today?
In Meru, we are coming and we'll continue with the trail.
Okay.
Yes.
Democracy is good, and we build a resilient and prosperous country by agreeing to disagree. And the fundamental differences notwithstanding, then respect is there and constitutional order. Asante, many thanks for your time. And thanks to you too for waking up with us here on the broadcast and throughout the week. Your company is always worthy and appreciated. We'll see you next week here on the broadcast. Till then, good morning.